All right. So you want to download our document. Open Cami. Drag and drop that up there. All right. And you guys will not have that option at this point. All right, we've got, actually I said reopen. I forgot. This is a new document. All right, some of it's going to look similar, but we're going to go into greater depth on our stuff. Now there is no Pear Deck today, so you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so sociological methods are kind of the general way we approach answering sociological questions. What we're going to talk about now is how we actually apply and design sociological studies. Two obvious questions kind of jump to the fore here. What is a research design, and why in the world do we actually need one? Google Slides, what are you doing? Oh, I guess we get it all at once. Thanks, Google Slides. Okay, so what is a research design? Well, it's a plan. It is a plan for how we are going to state our question. And if you're thinking, I need a plan for stating a question, yes, you need a plan for stating a question. And for answering that question. We need one because it keeps us on track. It's like our recipe for how we're going to do this. And very much related to keeping us on track, it also keeps our work transparent. We are sharing with the world how we did this in order to allow the following. We want to allow others to see how we reached our conclusions. And so they can decide if we did a good job trying to get there. But even more importantly for science, it allows replication. Even in Neil deGrasse Tyson's speech about science, we see the importance of replication. Lydia does a study. Della does a study. Bobby does a study. And if they're all following the same research design, or at least similar research designs, they're using the same kind of evidence, asking the same questions, they're replicating each other's work. And if they're getting the same result, then we've got a good emerging scientific understanding. If we don't, right, as Neil deGrasse Tyson said, then we're on the path to nothing. Right? And that does happen a lot in science, and especially in the social sciences. And this, as you might have guessed, is how we not only test our theories, but improve them. Because if Lydia does her study, and Della does a study that replicates that, but makes an additional finding and tweaks the theory ever so slightly, and then I guess it was Bobby, replicates that again, finds out, yeah, Della's tweak to that theory makes a big difference. I get similar findings. They're different in the way we would expect based on how Della has changed Lydia's theory. And we move forward, and we get better at understanding things. Now, a lot of this, we still have the same steps. Again, we're just kind of putting meat on the bones of this. So I'm going to return to our old example of a question. Why are Danes happier than Americans? Oh, which I realize is not a lot there, but also you still need time to process. All right. Step 2 is identifying possible answers. Now, remember, theories are answers. And in our previous set of notes on this, or in my previous presentations, I gave you different theories as answers to that question. Now, where do those answers come from? I'm not just making them up. And you shouldn't be making them up either. Before you offer an answer, you need to do what's called a literature review. You look at what other people have done, their research designs, their research, their findings, and you use their theories as kind of a springboard for your own theory, your own answer to answer the question. And these answers are going to look a little different than last time. So, previous literature might have told us not only the theory that wealthy countries have happier people than poorer countries, but that the reason for this is because wealthy people can afford the kinds of creature comforts and leisure time and activities that make people happy. This isn't that not all theories have to be path-breaking and earth-shattering. How many of you have ever heard the saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy? Or some variation on that? Nobody? You okay, Bobby's right. Thank goodness. Not that the rest of that means the rest of you are hopeless. It mostly makes me not feel hopeless that all of my colloquialisms are archaic. Okay. And this one, similarly modified, the theory that ethnically homogeneous countries are happier than ethnically heterogeneous countries because people find comfort in familiarity and sameness. That can sound boring, but for a lot of people, that can be comforting. And that theory that countries whose governments spend money on things people say making their lives better will be happier, to that we add because they feel like they're part of a good and functioning community. And we use the example of roads, but I mean another one that springs to mind, and I'm not making any kind of political advocacy here, but notice just in the last couple of weeks, there's that kind of blue two-story house that now has plywood boarded around like the whole first story. How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel good about St. Joe when you're coming to school? What's that? Well, I mean, that's what I think. I mean, and I've seen more and more of that going up. I mean, could the government do anything about that? I mean, it could. I mean, there are ways that it could seize the properties, condemn them. I see that a lot, too. I mean, how many of you have seen those bright blaze orange condemnation stickers tacked up to houses around St. Joe? And I've seen it, and sometimes they stay there for years. Right? The government could use eminent domain and take them, right? Tear them down. They've done that in some places. But, I mean, other places like burned out houses are still there like a long time after. They're abandoned properties and nothing happens, right? And that does not make a person feel good about their community. Again, I'm not advocating anything because I realize that that would cost money that our government doesn't necessarily have, and maybe that's not the best way to spend it. But you can kind of see where that theory is coming from. And then finally, people who trust each other and their government are happier than people who are less trusting. Because we talked about they feel less anxious and more secure. And our example was those of you that have left something valuable in your car, right, or you've left your phone in another classroom. I have never seen any kind of panic like I've seen on the faces of students who have left their phone in another classroom or the bathroom. All right, they are sure that they will never see that thing again. If they could trust that somebody would pick it up, take it to the office, and then somebody would just page them over the intercom to come get it, they wouldn't feel anxious. All right, step 3 is to conceptualize your variables. Now, variables, not surprisingly, are just things that vary, which is not a satisfying definition for an ELA class, but it works for us, because we are not an ELA class. I want you to think of theories not as some just terrifying, abstract, and complex things. Theories are not only answers to questions, they're really just stories. They are cause and effect stories. And they're built from variables. Now, we've got two main types of variables. The world of variables can get a little messier if we add in intervening ones. We are not going to be doing that here. There's dependent variables. These are the things we want to explain. Like happiness. What causes happiness? What is happiness? And before we know what causes happiness, we have to know what happiness is. But dependent variables are also the effect in our cause and effect stories. They are outcomes. Independent variables are the causes. Or in some cases, we're just talking about a variable. And again, we will generally keep these things pretty simple. We'll talk about relationships between a single independent variable or cause and a single dependent variable or effect. Google Slides, you were doing some really funny things today. All right. Now, on to that conceptualization business. Conceptualization is defining your variables. And we do this for clarity, so that we all know when Lydia and Della and Bobby do their studies, we know that when they say happiness, right, they all mean the same thing. Or when they say maybe trust, they all mean the same thing when they use trust as a variable. That gives us not only clarity, but also consistency. We want to make sure we're comparing apples and apples, not apples and oranges. You guys finished with that slide? Oh. Okay. Let's stop there. Go ahead and upload your notes. Give me just a second. I'm going to look at your exit slip, make sure I haven't put questions on there that we haven't covered the material yet. Yeah, go ahead and upload them and turn them in. I know they aren't complete.
I'll be right back.
You've got to go out and you find your lost internet.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's not saving the notes that I exited.
I think it's okay. So what it's going to do is it's going to let you take it twice anyway, and it will only keep the higher of your two scores because we didn't get as far into this as I wanted.
Wait, are we done with notes?
Yes, yep, you are finished with notes.
So we just submit it? No
Yes.
matter what's in it?
Yep, even if it is not complete because it can't be yet. Okay, I'm going to set this so that it will show you the correct answers after your first attempt, and I will only keep the highest of your, or the higher of your two scores. Okay, that is available now.